And welcome back to another episode of the Convoluted podcast. It's your host, Jesus, aka Tyrant, Dominus, and I'm here with Liz.
Hey!
And if it's your first time listening or watching, welcome, joining us. And Liz?
Oh, really?
Yes.
Please do tell. This is the first time hearing this, guys, so bear with me with my shocking.
It's from Darth Vader 3. He said, "It felt like my ears were waterboarded for 10 minutes before I had to tap out. The manic crackling and the annoying background noise too much."
Okay.
Well, we do appreciate that you lasted 10 minutes, but if anyone's wondering what happened there, that was the episode that Liz had work being done.
Yeah, it was nothing. I mean, we had the sound guy who tried his best. I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. So,
But Darth Vader 3-4, we do appreciate you tried. 10 minutes is not too bad.
no.
But if that was your first experience, we do apologize. It's tough. You never know with circumstances. But we appreciate that you actually jumped in for. But how have you been?
I just came off an 11-day stretch, so I'm doing okay. And my anxiety levels are right high because I'm like, I hope they don't freaking call me in because I'm like, I don't want to work 14 days up to the day. So,
Oh shit! 11 days straight. Fuck.
Yeah, I know. It was like they were desperate, but I was able to tweak the schedule to my advantage by going in at what time I wanted to go in and leave at what time, and
Oh yeah, because you had some people leave and stuff like that. I forgot about that.
and we have people calling out still sick, so there's nothing else we can do. Nobody picks up the phone. The person who called out sick called it like 6:00 at night before the shift started at 8:30, 9:00 at night. So like, not enough time to scramble to get everybody to like, hey, see if somebody will cover. But yeah, it's all whatever.
Fun times.
So,
Fun times.
Yep.
Sounds like fun times at work.
Yep. So, yep. How are you?
Well, I've had one of the longest weeks of my life. If anyone can hear, I've been sick for a while.
Oh.
Yeah, huh?
Did you?
What, Liz?
Down with it?
Oh my God, Liz! Stop talking about Jews. You can't say the.
I'm not talking about that. I'm down with it.
And no, so it all started when my mom ended up going to the hospital for COVID. Like, it was bad. We thought it was just something else, but she ended up just getting the recent that's been going around, and it was bad. She got like almost every symptom. So after she got home, we quarantined her, but that didn't help because my mom does not care. So she'll get up and go around. So she ended up giving the whole household. So thank you, Mom.
Fuck.
So yeah, like
but I was like, I hope not.
So yeah, she gave us all COVID. It was not fun because it was sufferable, and it's like, and like I've had it. This is my second time now that I've had it.
Ouch.
Yeah, not too bad. I've known people that have had it like 5 times.
I know. I don't do that 5 times.
So but I it was bad enough where it's not like the fun sick because I was sick from work, sick from school, but it's not that comfortable sickness where you can just like, oh, I'm sick from school or work, I can just watch a movie or two. No, I was like miserable. Oh my God.
Aww.
Yeah, so there's that. So I was sick for the last couple days. I'm still a little nasally, so if I sound a little different, I do. But yeah, that's kind of been my week. So it's been a very good recovery. Today's the first day like I 90%.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah,
I've been just messing up at work because I don't want that.
there you go, smart. Yes, yes, yes. And then just a little bit ago, we just had the announcement grandmother passed away. So she
Oh,
is no longer
so
with us.
sorry.
So yeah, it's been a very long week. Very long week. So that's kind of been my week. Like, and the heat has not been that bad for me because I've been fucking cold with cold sweats. I did not feel the heat at all. So I have no complaints for the weather this week, everyone. No weather updates on my side because I was too fucking sick to even notice it. It was like I was told it was like 90 degrees. And
Yeah, it has been 90 degrees, but I have been missing it too.
oh yeah, you've been in air conditioned offices, and I just been sick. Like I was in covers in my room with no air conditioning, and I was feeling cold. Everyone,
Oh,
yeah,
damn. You
yeah.
had a fever.
So yeah, no weather updates for you guys this week from any of
I
us.
know. Well, did you hear the thunder and lightning storm
There. Oh, I do
last
have.
night, 2 nights ago?
I have a story about that. So
Okay.
so the way my room is placed, there's a doorway to our backyard. So when I heard the thunder and lightning, it sounded like someone was trying to break into our. That's how loud it was. And I woke up and I was like what's happening? And I go to kind of peek out the window just to see if there's someone just prowling out there. And then nothing. And I'm like, I go out to see if anyone else woke up to see if like, oh, maybe someone else is noticing or something. Everyone's passed out asleep. I'm like, come on, guys.
Bruh.
And then I'm like, oh, probably it was probably nothing then because at that point, so I go back to bed. I still left the curtain a little open because I forgot to close it all the way. I look out the window and I see a flash of light, and then I realize, oh, it's thunder and like,
You didn't get rain?
I don't think so. I think it was just dry lightning.
Okay. We got some rain here, so
Oh
it was
man,
nice. It was damp when I woke up and I rode my bike to work, but yeah, I woke up and I was like, oh, thunder, because as soon as I heard the noise, I was like, what? And then I saw the flashlight. I was like, oh, cool. And the lightning, sweet.
yeah, I'm a big fan of the thunderstorms and stuff like that. Just it's calming, and I like the noise. It's nice background noise.
Yes, it is. It actually makes me excited. I like thunder and lightning. And it's just like because I as much of it in California because you only got it like once in a blue moon, it seems like. And yeah, it was funny because my mom actually woke up and she's like, I heard a loud noise. I wasn't quite sure what it was. I thought I was dreaming. And I'm like, Mom, it was thunder and lightning. I saw the lightning. So I knew for a fact. She's
Once
like,
again,
yeah, go ahead.
another household where it's like it's loud noise, no one wakes up, and it's like it could be something
Oh,
else.
I woke up and I thought about it, but I was like, oh, wait, that's thunder. I'm not going to worry about it.
Oh, that's funny. Uh, our if our household is getting like raided, we're the only ones that's gonna be awake at that point.
I know, right? Well, my mom woke up, but she didn't like go check in the house because she sleeps in the main area. So our condo is not that big. So
True. Okay. So, anything else you want to catch up, everyone? Because I know next week will be the start where you will be off duty for a couple
intermittently
episodes.
out, maybe. I don't know if I'll be completely in.
No,
We'll
you're
see.
fine. We have our guest hosts ready, lined up, and all ready to go. So, everyone, the month of September, you'll be having some fun guests joining us for some of the episodes. While Liz recovers, if you want to know what's happening, there is a bonus episode out that has all the information with Liz in detail telling us, for the most part, what's happening, what has happened, and what's to come. If you want to know more of Liz's journey, head and check out the bonus episode. And you can support us that way too. As always, you can always support us by buying the merch at merch.tyrantdominus.com. The link is down in the description. And it's a way for you to get something from, as well as supporting us. It's and I believe this is the last week for our second inspiration merch. The third and final one will be coming out in September. So that's one of my favorite ones. It's one of the more colorful ones. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. And then, yeah, if you want to share the podcast, don't forget to share the podcast through any of the social medias, X, Instagram, Facebook. We've been really pushing Facebook recently, and and TikTok. So, and we've been trying threads as well. But yeah, follow us any there, because that's one other ways to kind of get a hold of us. If you're watching this on YouTube, check out the comments. We can read your comments like we did for Darth Vader 3-4. Oh, well, yeah,
3-4-6 or
something like that. We do read we actually do read your comments. But yeah, or best way that is free, just tell a friend, tell a family member, hey, check out the show. Like, force them to listen to it. Find some way. Because we're everywhere on YouTube and any of the other podcasting platforms. Yes. But yeah, I think that's kind of really it for catching up. Right? Nothing else
I think so. I can't think of anything else.
All right.
Nope.
All right, we're gonna start with a weird video. Give us some.
Yes. I'm already laughing, guys. It was funny. I haven't watched it, just FYI.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Moist Critical, one of our biggest.
Ursula's been listening to him, watching him all day for like a couple days.
Is she now a fan of Moist Critical, Harley?
Yeah, she's been listening to Charlie for the last, I don't know how many days. She's like, I've been watching him. I'm like, okay. This is his older one. I'm like, okay.
Oh, his old Charlie. Because I remember I used to watch. We'll tangent a little before we get into the story. I used to watch old Charlie early years when he didn't show his face at all. It was just his game.
Oh, really?
Yes, back when he used to start. I wonder if I can do the voice. Let's see here. It's like, oh my god, what was his old thing? It was like, oh my god, what was his old thing? I'm trying to remember. It's like, hey everybody, it's was it? Did he used to say Moist Critical in the back? I don't think so. I think that's more recent. But he used to just be a little bit more vulgar. He would always try to say a lot of more like penis and boob jokes in his content. This is back in like,
that's awesome.
This is back in like 2014 when like that edgier content was on YouTube. Mm-hmm. But yeah. But you know, we've watched him enough, and he's had some reasonable takes that we agree and disagree with as well. But yeah, he's at least one of the better content creators to be watching, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, he is the Convoluted approved. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree. I'm not disagreeing.
Let's see what happened with this incident.
Thank you for asking. How did I play? Well, terribly, actually. I played horribly. I almost immediately pulled my shoulder, which at my age is very painful. And then my old man brittle bones started creaking a lot, and a fly flew in my mouth. But that didn't stop me from putting on an absolute shooting nightmare. I went like 4 for 12 and 0 for 2 from the 3. It was bad. And also, the fly in my mouth paranoid me because I'm a hypochondriac. I couldn't stop imagining Ozzy and Drix inside of my body fighting against this fly in there. Bruh. Wasn't my best showing. But can you stop talking about basketball so much, please? That's not what we're here for. Goodness gracious, you're a real chatty Cathy. What the fuck? What we're here to discuss is a really weird criminal I learned about on stream last night, and I've been thinking about him ever since. There's a case going around about a criminal in Essex who has done nothing but steal pacifiers from literal babies.
What are your initial thoughts hearing that?
What the hell? Why?
Take the term stealing candy from a baby.
Literally, that is like they want chaos to ensue.
Like, what's up with people sometimes when
he's a big man baby? Maybe you really need that pacifier.
Yeah, damn that is. Let's find out. We'll find out. But just hearing that, I don't. I've never known a kleptomaniac. but you just never know sometimes, right?
Yep.
Wait, what? Man 23 charged with snatching dummies from babies in Essex. Dummies? You guys call pacifiers dummies?
Oh, I didn't know that.
They do. I did. I knew that.
Okay.
Sounds like you're insulting your kid. Why not just call him a pacifier? A man will appear in court charged with snatching dummies out of the mouths of babies. What a cartoonishly evil plan.
Let's see here. Ethics police said pacifiers were taken from babies in Harlow on 4 occasions between 10 February and 7 of August. Josh Gilder, 23, of no fixed address. Whoa, did they dox you?
Probably saying. I don't know, but they probably. Well, yeah, I usually do. They actually document their addresses. I think I remember reading a couple articles from that area, and they will say of 34th Carolina Street or something like that. You know what I mean?
Oh, so they'll give you the street, but not the. Oh, that seems a little.
Oh, they'll get the address, like 34th Carolina Street.
Really? Have we not read enough British articles?
No, I don't think. I thought we have a couple of them, but not.
I don't remember reading. Yeah, but we don't.
You missed that part.
Maybe. Oh, maybe we should keep an eye out because I don't think we've read enough I think UK articles or something around that. Where's Essex? So we don't sound stupid.
Maybe a suburb of London area, if I'm correct. Maybe I'm wrong, and people can correct me.
Well,
please do.
It's England. It's a section.
It is
of England.
Okay. It is a section. Well, I was watching a show, and they were talking about how the 5 or 6 kingdoms of England, and one of them was Essex, and the other one was like Northumbria, and just like those kind of things. So I thought it would be like a part of England.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at it. It's it's like from the looks of it, it's like. It looks like counties a little bit.
Okay.
Anyways, all right. Now that we know that, let's continue with this. Let's see what this man Josh was doing.
Does he at least sell them or something? Like, what's the motivation besides just making a baby cry? True. Josh Gilder was arrested on Monday on suspicion of theft from a person, robbery, and using threatening behavior to cause alarm and distress.
Oh, that's even worse. I didn't read that part.
This happened on 4 occasions, apparently. The serial pacifier robber, burglar. What does he do with them? Does he just take them out and run away, or does he take them out and put them back? Like, what does he do? Oh, here we go. We got some more information. All right.
Thank you for the research.
The story just took a really interesting twist. So according to according to her, he uses the dummy to soothe himself. So what he's doing...
He's a big baby. But he's homeless, so maybe he has some mental issues. Who knows?
Maybe, but
I'm not sure I understand.
Sorry,
yeah,
Apple Watch.
It sounds even Liz's Apple Watch doesn't understand this guy. Yeah, that's scary because it's one. I don't understand, but I get stealing the pacifier, but then. Threatening, that's mostly with a baby or an infant. That's scary.
It is.
Oh god. Anything
doing, and this is a revolting thought. He is taking the pacifiers out of babies' mouths and then sucking on them himself. That is fucking gross. Holy shit. He said he would take the dummy and then go sit in a tent and use the dummy, describing the thefts as purely acquisitive. Acquisition. So acquisitive. Gilder also admitted causing harassment, alarm, and distress to a police officer the day he was arrested. He told the officer, "If my stuff gets broken, I swear I'll kill you."
Ooh, that is that's a very aggressive individual, Josh.
Yes, Josh, we don't like that.
But yeah, I think we get the gist of the story. It's anything more, let's say, just quick.
He denied 3 charges of assault relating to 3 of the 5 children who he took dummies from.
Oh, wow.
Still shouldn't be stealing them from babies. bit of a hot take there from me, but I'll say it with my chest.
Yeah, I think we get the gist of the story. It's crazy. It's a crazy story. It's a little bit more lighthearted, but it's still scary because you're probably like walking a child around. They have their pacifier, dummy, or binky, whatever you want to call it, and a random individual just comes and snatches for their own personal use. Oh God, it's this world, I'd rather
I wonder if he was mentally insane by doing that.
Well, he was too. Or
is high and he needed something to suck on.
Oh God.
I've heard there's a drug, I can't remember which one it is, that will make you grind your teeth so you suck on a binky.
I do not like the sound of that.
We were just watching Painkillers on Netflix. A good one show to watch. I liked it. I think from my medical background, it was kind of like, oh, I understood what about. So
thank you, Charlie, for that video. A crazy one. I think my at least my final thoughts on this video is it's scary. If this is what you have to deal with, it's on the lighter side of crimes. It's it's still involving children. So be safe out there. Like there's some scarier stories we're about to jump into, but man, it's just never, you can't.
I know, right?
So yeah. And what are your final thoughts as far as the dummy steal?
He needs some help. He needs some serious help. Taking baby from a candy from a baby. That's pretty much it.
Yep.
My name is Jeff.
Okay. So what do you want to get into? You want to stay with kind of the kids side of the story, or is there something else?
We could start on the kids side of the story.
So let's go with the story right above. This one's a little bit more positive as well.
Which one is that again?
Above, below the yes. I'll let you read.
I gotta find it.
Like the second one.
Is it the one I posted? No.
Second to the bottom.
Second to the bottom. My bad. Wrong way. All right. Dun, da, da, da. Oh, will I be able to read this? Yes, I will. 7 kids, 1 teacher. Rescued from a cable car left dangling 900 feet above Pakistan marine. Ooh.
How high?
900 feet dangling.
Yeah.
Oh.
What would your thoughts be just with you, just that? Because I've thought of that situation. Because I've been I don't think I've been 900 feet. I think the highest I've been where I've been, quote, dangling has been 400 to 500 feet. And that's still high. I'm not denying that's still fucking high. But getting close to 1,000 feet. What would you
I've been up that way. Up on that number. Because back when I went to Alaska, almost 5 years ago, seems like. Actually, that popped up on my Facebook feed too. We went when we hit Juneau. We went up and did up basically a cart up to the thing where it's on a cable, of course.
Oh, so kind of similar.
Cable cars.
Similar.
Yeah, very similar. So I was going up the side of the mountain. So you think about it, you're escalating high up into the mountains. So I have been up that way, and it's a little intense. I mean, I don't like heights that much, but even though I was in case and you could feel the air come through everything, so
you can kind of sympathize somewhat with this. All right.
Yeah.
All right, then continue with that.
Oh shit! Jump to another article. Give me a second. I posted that. It's all their fault. Come on. I was thinking about it. Okay, maybe I'll just close it out and restart it open. It's not liking me today. All right. 7 school kids and 1 teacher were miraculously rescued Tuesday from a car dangling 900 feet nearly 16 hours after the cord suddenly snapped above the ravine in Pakistan.
Whoa,
The first
16 hours up there?
I know, that's a long time. Damn. Like, get me out of here. The group first got stuck at 7 a.m. local time when one of the cables on the gondola taking them to school in mountainous Battleground broke. The extremely risky rescue operation involving military commandos being winched down from helicopters in dangerously high winds continued nearly all day before officials finally announced its successful completion. All the kids have been successfully and safely rescued. Caretaker Prime Minister, I'm going to mutilate this, guys, I apologize, Anwar Haj Akar, I guess, tweeted triumphantly just before midnight. So 7 a.m. to almost midnight. Woo!
Ooh, that's a long day.
Yeah, that's a very long day. Several of the students and their parents burst into tears when they finally reunited, according to local senior police officer Nazir Ahmed. Does she have an easy name like that? Everyone was praying for this moment, he said. A miraculous rescue started when the group stranded them when the couple gave way and the conveyance suspended on an angle at 900 feet above the ground. The first two students who were rescued late Tuesday afternoon with local TV showing one of the children being lifted off the cable car by helicopter in a harness and then carried to the ground. The helicopter operation was then suspended due to ongoing heavy winds and darkness before another 3 were evacuated thanks to the ground operation. By nightfall, the floodlights, extra cables, and other ground-based equipment were installed to aid the ongoing effort.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the photos. Okay, we get the gist of the story.
Yeah.
At least it looks like there was also like a lot of locals helping, and yeah, this is a very unifying like thing. But yeah, high winds, helicopter. Oh, that's scary. And with one last cable holding them, that is scary. Mostly for kids and stuff. Like this, from the looks of it looks like it was just like a yearly thing that they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this yearly thing, and just this one time happened.
Yeah,
it's scary, and I'm
scary,
and I'm kind of glad that it was just like it ended on a more positive note than we normally do with these stories, because this is kind of the moments where like a community really comes together to, we need to save these. Like, I'm not saying that we don't. It's just like sometimes we just need it, and we need to see it more because we've just been reading a lot of negativity, which is kind of it's our bread and butter, but because that's what we look for. But sometimes finding these like weird, the cable card ones, like man, it's great.
Yep.
But I'm glad they're safe.
Yep, me too. I'm glad they're safe. There was it sounds like a work effort to help them and take care of them and all that jazz. So
now they're just gonna have to fix up that cable system for the next while.
Yes, they definitely should be checking on it pretty much periodically before the next school year starts.
or probably
they might be going school year round, but you should probably take a couple of weeks out of the year to check on that shit.
Yeah, maybe that stuff. All right. Is there a story you want to jump into?
Well, since we're on the kids thing, I mean, it's a quick article, guys. It's just really funny. We all have some crazy stuff in our lives. I figure we're on this side of the world, and kids. Ugandan man who fathered 102 children from 12 wives finally says enough.
Whoa! Wait, what?
102 children from 12 wives, and he said it's enough. It's done. He's done. He's done his done.
Are you out of your mind? Okay. That oh god, I can only imagine the what is it? The oh my god, why can't I think of the joke?
I can't think of the joke, but yeah. A Ugandan man named Musa Hashaya Kasera was fathered 102 children from 12 wives and has 578 grandchildren to date, creating one of the biggest families in the world. The entire family lives together on 5 acres of land in the village of Bugusia in the Convoluted district, which is a remote region in the eastern Ugandan. Yeah. He
Damn.
married his first wife in 1972 when they were both 17 years old.
Okay.
Who welcomed the baby named Sandra Nabwire a year later, but Musa's brothers, friends, and other relatives soon advised him to marry multiple times to produce as many of his children as possible and expand the family's legacy. No doubt he took his advice seriously. Musa was a cattle trader and a butcher.
Yeah, because there's like that was kind of the thing back in the day, and different cultures too. Where one, you just had to have as many kids as possible because sadly the medical stuff that happened back then was not like a lot of kids did not survive.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why there was like you see a lot of people with a lot of children just because a lot of them didn't survive. So when you said when people had like 8 kids, like 4 of them survived in the we'll just say past. Well, even in current society, there's some places in the world that still don't have what we consider
almost third countries to ranking. Don't even think about that. We're almost third world ranking.
But anyways, yeah, it's so kind of and you said the 70s, 70s in that part of the world probably still has some of that.
Oh yeah,
that kind of that culture and stuff. So. And it kind of when they said like the plot of land, it sounded also cultish because it's that level of like cult level stuff where like the cult leader just trying to it always ends up with like some section like no matter what some cults always end up like that. But you were giggling about something, so what happened?
Well, his children currently range from age 10 to 50 and his youngest wife being 35, but then Musa said that to falter, not knowing the names of most of and the last one.
Wait, what? Sorry, you cut out a little bit.
His memory falters. He admits he's most of his children. Remember the last one.
Whoa, you are cutting out a lot.
Oh, Jesus. Mary and Joseph. Yeah. Names of most, he did not remember most of his children's names. He only remembers the first and the last one, and the rest is all a blur.
Bruh. Okay, there we go. I heard that one.
Okay, at the 100 is 98 children. Grass thatched cottages. That was funny. He doesn't remember most of the names. He remembers the first one and the last one. I guess that's a good place to start.
Yeah, I don't blame him. That's a lot of kids and that's a lot of names to remember. Unless you like did there's a joke where you can like you name your child a letter then after a number. So like your blank something. Like that's how you remember them. Blank number.
It's crazy how much they it's just crazy what he remembers on the first one and the last one. Good, the rest of you all in between. He doesn't remember. You're a blur.
Hey man, how old is he?
Hi blur 1, hi blur 2.
So he was 17 in 1972.
1972. Yeah.
Well, how old would he be right now? 60.
1972, 17, so 17 years ago. 1955, be 68.
So almost 70. He's
70.
He's getting up there. That's not bad. Hey, if he can remember even one of his kids, that's not bad.
102.
So that's not bad. It's crazy. It's wild, but like I said, it's a cultural thing, and
yeah,
and it seems
crazy,
like
though.
From what I was looking at here, it seems like in according to 2014 census of Uganda, about a little over 8% of all women who are aged 18 or above were either in a married or shared husband in a polygamous marriage. And there have been attempts to outlaw polygamy in the country as early as 1987, but none of the proposals have been passed. There's a lot to say about polygamy, but we're not really here to say anything about that. But to each their own. It can get, there can get cases where it gets a little wild. Like this one's extremely wild. How many wives?
I feel like they're extremely wild. It gets up there.
Yeah, it's a lot, and there's a lot of children. But like we say, to each their own. As long as they're not hurting anyone. But that's a lot. That is definitely a lot.
You gotta make sure you're not marrying your family, though.
And look at that shit.
So yeah. All right, let's jump into some more sketchier tales. I know there's one that caught my eye.
Oh, which one? I posted a couple.
Louisiana.
Oh yeah.
So, okay, you guys ready? Yeah. So, Louisiana police rescue captive woman chained to floor of a home in dramatic body cam video. Can I play here? See if it works.
Connect with Flex.
Oh no, stupid ad. Oh, well, wait a second. It's gonna stop playing the ad, or not? See if I can. Oopsie. Fun ad be over. Okay, it's only a little bit. It looks like a normal. The video I'm watching right now is normal video from body cam. They're entering a house.
Put the door down? Yeah.
Okay, there's two officers taking down a door. Officers quickly learn that the entire first floor, to include windows, is completely barricaded. Looks like they go to the back. Officers are looking for ways to gain access to the house.
Which windows to kick out? Where you see a ladder at?
I got a ladder. The ladder was on the side.
Okay, they get a ladder from the neighbors.
He did what? Is he Hispanic?
Ooh, God, that's crazy.
Where's the key at, man?
I know he's got it on his feet. And he's got it on his
But there's no one else in here, right?
No, you can
They use an axe to break down. He's literally chained to the floor.
Thank you so much.
LMEMs and LFD respond and treat the female survivor. Multiple LMD units worked tirelessly on the case. 2 days later, the alleged suspect was taken into custody. So what you guys heard was basically the body cam footage. So let's read the actual thing. Police in Louisville have released body cam footage, which you just listened to, showing a dramatic rescue of a woman who was found chained to the floor. Yes, you just heard, and I just watched. Me and Liz. I don't know if Liz watched it.
I watched a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. The chained to the floor of the house after neighbors heard the screams for help. Good thing people can hear and don't ignore. Footages from the officers' worn body cam on August 16 show two officers circling the two-story house in the 17th block of Bowling. I thought I said Bowling Avenue. Well, there you go. Look, it's actually saying the address. To find ways inside, the officers, however, quickly learned that all the doors and windows of the first floor were completely barricaded. Yes. Neighbors, kind of what I said already. Neighbors lent the ladder. The woman who had been crying help was chained. Okay, I said that. Officers found a hatchet to the room. Yes, we heard that part. Their reason. The suspect, identified as 30 Moses May. I think that's how you was charged.
Yeah, Moses May
was charged with kidnapping. There's a photo of the man the monster. 2 counts of assault and terroristic. Ooh, wow, that's big. Saying terroristic's big. According to WDRB, he was also charged with intimidating a
participant in the legal process.
Oh wow. Oh,
wanton endangerment and harassment.
Even better. The victim, Jonah, spoke to the station about the ordeal, alleging that May, her estranged boyfriend and father of her child, had her strip her clothes off and used a matchet to cut her hair and threatened to
Machete?
kill. Machete?
Damn. Yeah, it's a machete.
He made me strip naked to. He put a chain around my neck. He called his friend and said I would take this equipment back to Lowe's when I come back. I'm gonna kill you. Damn, that is wild.
And look at that shit.
I only had a few minutes to get out. Oh, so that was the day of. Ooh, that
Wow.
yeah. Wilson was who said she was chained up in the house for 5 hours. Oh, so recent. It's still a lot. 5 hours is still a lot, but at least it wasn't like days or weeks because that can happen. She used to share old station. She's told the station that her child is staying. Okay, that is wild, and it's
Definitely.
it is one of the stories that we bring up just because it is one of the wilder stories, and you probably might not hear this in main media, but it's one we just bring up because like it's one of the stories I would say is like don't ignore, because some people just hear some yelling and just like ignore and continue walking, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad the neighbors paid attention. Realized the situation was dire.
Because this one, like, even though, like I said, it sounds like I'm brushing off 5 hours. She was chained up as nothing, and I say like, yo, there's some people that are kidnapped and stashed away for like weeks, months, years, and we've had stories like that. But any amount of just that level of just being threatened and held captive is traumatizing in itself. And it sounded like from this point she was basically going to get murdered from the sound of it, right?
Yeah, no kidding. I'm glad she was able to get help and out, and it hasn't become a much more tragic story.
Yeah,
I mean, granted, it would have got more headlines and more paid attention, but still, I like the happy ending. Of course, she's gonna have PTSD for like the rest of her life. The kid's probably gonna be traumatized too, and
definitely.
It's just yeah, sad outcome. Sure.
Definitely. It's definitely more on the God, man, that's crazy.
Yeah. It almost reminds you of like the Saw movies where you're chained up and
yeah, you're right. It's like you have only mere like moments basically to find your way out, and the way she did was break through the window, call for help, and hopefully that worked. And then luckily that worked, because in any other situation like in the Saw movies, if you fail, you're gone, you're a goner. And like we stated earlier, I'm glad it turned more positive. And you're right, we would have been reading a completely different story today.
Completed its thing and nobody listened to the cries of help, or she wasn't able to even get a scream out for help. I mean,
yeah, because it's so wild.
No, it's crazy. It's an absolute crazy story. I mean, it scary. I'm happy it turned out well, and wow, just wow. You know, it could have been a much more worse story, that's for sure.
It's really a drive for like that level of like survival, when people like really like you push yourself like I have to find a way out. Like you just gotta you'll do anything just to like try to survive it. You know, that's when you have
especially you think about your kid. Be like, hey, you know, I'm gotta live for my kid. Like that definitely would be something that I'd drive for every day. For you know, for myself, it's like, okay, I really gotta, you know, I gotta make this last because I'm that person's, you know, relying on me. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I got something in my throat, guys.
Okay, so anything else you want to state for this article?
Nope.
All right, let's continue with some positive, disappointing stuff coming up. We're gonna be watching another video, everyone. So get ready. All right, so let's get into some of the stuff with what we always talk about, the economy. But there's some positive and negative stuff, and let's see how that involves what's continuing.
If you've rented for long enough, you've probably had to deal with just an absolutely horrible landlord at some point. Maybe they've
So landlords for sure have never gotten a good reputation For the most part, anywhere in real life on the internet, landlords have always had this like stigma. For the time I've ever rented or my family's ever rented, we've been, I would say, fortunate with our quote landlords of not being like assholes.
Dad was not a bad landlord. He was a great landlord.
Oh yeah, your dad was the landlord. Oh yeah, I forgot that was a meme.
Down in California, when
But yeah, but nowadays it's like, right, like we say, these days it's this economy, it's like horrible. But let's continue.
Expectedly raise your rent on you. They try to evict you. Maybe they refuse to fix or get rid of mold, rats, roaches, flooding, broken elevators, anything that sucks for you and costs them money. But what if I told you there was a way to fight back called a tenant union?
Did you know that was a thing? I did not know that was a thing.
yes, very common. My sister had a problem with one of her last landlords before she became a homeowner. Yeah, they were very much involved with that because we had issues with that guy who bought the building. That was our building at one point. So,
Ooh, wow. Okay, so everyone, what is a tenant union? And we'll find out right now.
We've all heard and seen labor unions, and it's kind of like that. But instead of coworkers organizing against their bosses, neighbors organize against their landlord. And to turn up pressure, they even do things like hold rallies and protests, sometimes lobby the government, or hit the nuclear option, a rent strike. And so I really wanted to look into this growing movement, and so we spoke to Tara Ragavir, who notably co-founded KC Tenants, the union in Kansas City, Missouri, with 3 other women back in 2019. Where they're saying tenant activism exploded nationwide once the pandemic shut everything down. And this had to do in part with the economic shock suddenly forcing people to come face to face with the possibility of eviction for the first time. Though that
Yeah, that's kind of, we brought up this topic in the last couple years, really, because it's been rough. It's been rough. It's happened to my family, and I've never heard of a tenant union. It makes sense in the final scope of stuff, but definitely it's like it's a very insightful way to look at it, and we'll see what they explain, and I'm hoping we can get a little bit more insight. But what are your thoughts? Just hearing that there's a way for like individuals to at least not fight back is a strong word, but at least have some leverage.
I think that's a great thing. I mean, if you know you have a crappy landlord, I'm glad you have resources to go to. I mean, we shouldn't have to deal with somebody's neglect and abuse too.
There you go. Okay.
That fear was largely calmed down for the time being by government eviction moratoriums, rent caps, and rental assistance programs. And so with that, another factor Tara points out is just how much more important the home became for people's survival.
We were told to stay home, right? We were told to shelter in place. Our housing was the vaccine before the vaccine. It was the way that we were told to keep ourselves and our communities safe.
But for many people,
That's true. We were during the shutdown, basically. We were told you can't leave your house. I remember that was tough for a lot of people. We talked about that. That was tough. It was very fortunate for the people who had the ability to quote work outside, like you and myself. Were like that was our outings. And that was, oh my god, it's so long now. It feels like forever ago. But
No.
you remember how long we were stuck indoors? Like, was it 9 months or something? Like you were not allowed to like just leave your house. How long was that?
I don't know.
It was a while.
It was a while, but I didn't think it was that long. I thought it was like a couple months. Like I was only like 3 or 4 months.
I know. I think it was more than that. Well, anyway,
I don't know. I didn't have to adhere to it because I literally had to go to work.
Exactly. Same. That's the other thing. Like you and me, it's hard for us because we had the ability to leave our house to work. And then there was like those levels of like just going to shopping for food, and that was also limiting. So, let's
with everybody going through toilet paper left and right.
Oh, God, that was horrible. All right.
people, that shelter was simply unaffordable, or at least the lockdown made the miserable quality of their home life impossible to ignore, whether it's because their apartment was in disrepair or they were living with an abuser. And so there was this growing sense that something was wrong. But as for who to blame, Tara spoke to a lot of people who were kind of confused.
We met people who felt alone and oftentimes had internalized a lot of shame about what was going on for them. We've got a hotline where people call from a place of crisis. And one of the first things we tell them is, you're not alone. What's happening to you is not your fault. You can actually do something about it if you organize with your neighbors.
And she adds that often people don't even understand what a tenant is, much less what a union is.
That's true. If you ask anyone, they have a different scope of things. like even when I was like first hearing about it, I'm like, I know what a union is, and I understand what a tenant is, but tenant union, like I get the concept, but like, what is it?
So the first step
Yeah.
is to build up that class consciousness, with Katie Goldstein, director of the Housing and Healthcare Campaigns of the Center for Popular Democracy, explaining.
But I think that the housing market in general has been pretty depoliticized. I think that people often think that housing, what kind of housing they have is based upon an individual choice, not actually a structural market that's operating in all kinds of ways that we don't have control over. But that is really beginning to change across the country as tenants become more organized and politicized.
Now, Goldstein says we don't have exact data on the number of tenant unions nationwide, but their membership is in the tens of thousands. And there's really no limit to the kinds of housing that can be organized, whether it's single-family homes, multi-family homes, senior living, student accommodation, even trailer parks. With that last one being surprisingly common. I mean, hell, I was even a trailer park kid. And there's an estimated 22 million households, or at least 1 in 15 Americans, living in mobile homes. And often, unlike with traditional housing, mobile home park landlords only own the land, not the actual home sitting on it. So that means they don't have to pay for all the typical maintenance and upkeep for those structures, which the tenants pay for themselves. Plus, the mobile and mobile home really doesn't mean much when it costs $5,000 or $6,000 to move one, which is why over 90% of them never budge once after their first installation. And
Wait, I didn't know that. Wait,
You didn't know that? Cost of rent, you have to rent the land.
oh, I know that. I'm just looking over 90% of mobile.
It's very cheap. I've been watching the housing market just because I've been looking to move eventually myself. God willing, that'll ever happen in my lifetime.
I know, right? That's I think we've talked about this. Like, I think you and my siblings have, that's their hope, but it's a hard hope at the moment, mostly with this economy. And I think we have more to watch continuing that, because it's just rough. And having, because one of my siblings a few years ago wanted to do this, want to do the what are those oh my god, what are those like manufactured homes,
Basically.
yeah, which are like in the long run they're reasonably cheap for what they are. And ones, all right, yeah, continue on. Yeah, they were looking at place, because it's cheaper to get a manufacturing home and purchase land, but it's just getting the accommodation for that. Even I think even now during this economy, I think that's still a more viable option at the moment. But because like imagine I think I remember we joked about buying a decent piece of land and just making that kind of what the other guy with his like 102 kids, just making a little
I know, right?
just like, here, I buy a, what's a good piece of land, like a 10-acre piece of land, and then just splitting it off and having everyone have manufacturing home base and have decent, make it reasonable,
Right?
like I would do that, like just slot everything up, like, okay, do you guys want to live here, just pay X amount, be nice, make yourself at home, basically, instead of worrying about stuff.
There is a piece of land I've been looking at, but it would be worth it to do it. We could do it, guys.
Ooh, make the convoluted compound right there.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a good chunk of land too. It was like, I want to say like a good 9 acres or so, maybe.
9 acres,
I don't know.
close to my 10-acre plan. Maybe.
Yep.
Hey, right, guys. It just start buying our merch, and we'll be making the compound, making it nice and easy, livable places.
You come visit us.
Anyways, but yeah, as far as this, yeah, like it's one of these things. Yeah, it's like even if once the land becomes hard for like mobile home users, doesn't sound like it's that expensive to. Associates with moving the home is about 6,000. Also, around 1/3 of mobile home park residents are retired and not include to move as frequently as young residents. That's true. Some people are more, what's the word, relaxed where they're at. They're just like, I'm good here. And they're just like, they're set in their ways. Yeah, let's continue.
over $6,000 to move one, which is why over 90% of them never budge once after their first installation. And so these landlords have a ton of leverage to raise rents because if tenants don't like it, there's not a lot they can do about it. Never mind if they get evicted, in which case they may have to say goodbye to the property they've invested thousands of dollars and years of their lives into, all of which is why mobile home parks yield some of the highest returns in real estate, right? And it's that promise of a reliable revenue stream that inspired Frank Rolfe, who owns 250 such parks, to proclaim, "We're like a Waffle House where everyone is chained to the booths." So it's not a surprise that big investment firms like Blackstone, the Carlyle Group, and Stockbridge Capital Group have scooped up large shares in this market. But they don't always just sit on the property and collect rent, right? Sometimes the investor sells the land to a developer, which kicks everyone off of it in mass and builds multi-million-dollar.
And that's been happening. That's been happening a lot recently, in our communities as well. There's been a lot of these compound buildings being built and apartments being built, complex condos, and just that's kind of, it feels like that's gonna be the movement for the next couple of years. It's just gonna be buying out the land from and moving away the poor and just to but the thing is, it's like a lot of people can't afford to live in these places. Like, you can't even have the people who you want people to live. These are just going to be empty places that are just going to be no profit. And we've been seeing them more and more, even in our area. Because at least in where I'm living, there's 4 pieces of land, and 3 of those are already building like condominiums, and there's a place that already has some of those duplex already built, stuff like that.
Yep.
It's just,
see that a lot.
Yep.
But they're not affordable either. Just an FYI.
Properties there instead, and often because these parks have been stigmatized by a number of things. I mean, hell, even including shows like Cops and Trailer Park Boys, often depicting the occupants as white trash. There's little support in government for zoning more mobile parks, let alone protecting existing ones. But if they band together under a tenant union, they might actually have a fighting chance, and some have actually done so in states across the country. Plus, their inclusion and organizing efforts has the potential to bridge racial and geographic divides. Our mobile home parks, mostly rented by rural white people in apartment buildings, often rented by Black and Hispanic people, are both owned by the same motherfuckers at the top. And it just takes the right organizer to help people realize that. Though do understand that's not to say that all tenants are equally easy to organize. Or with Tara saying that it's most difficult to rally the people who have become stuck in this constant churn of instability. Right? They have multiple evictions, very low incomes, and seemingly no way out, which leaves them with nowhere to turn except what Tara calls the landlords of last resort. Right? And those are the only property owners who will take them in, given their record, credit score, income, etc.
That's kind of where, that's the sad thing. It's like a lot of people just, we're in the point where you begin at the last resort, sadly, for some people. Like, you're just already at the end of your rope before you even start, for a lot of people. And for a lot of people who have been in the game and just already and have fallen back and like, I'll get back up, and they just fall back more. It's just hard. It's just hard for individuals.
Yeah, it's just like one bad luck after another. You can't seem to get above that bad luck, and it sucks. It really does.
Those tenants, I think, are the hardest to organize, in part because the forces of capital keep them moving, right? By design, the business model of the landlords who rent to tenants like that is predicated on those tenants' instability. So it's hard to organize a building union when half the building is turning over within 6 months or a year because they're getting evicted, they're getting priced out, their leases aren't renewed, the conditions are so horrible that they're forced to leave.
And then she also told us about one of the most egregious cases she's ever had to fight. With that happening at a building, the KC tenants began organizing in late January because it lost heat during one of the coldest weekends of the year.
Ooh, wow. That is wild.
It's not fun. I've been there. It's not fun when you're super cold in places.
School district
That
called
doesn't have
us.
enough heat.
They had students who were living in that.
Lost heat during one of the coldest weekends of the year.
The school district called us. They had students who were living in that building whose families were getting sick. And there was a risk that, especially some of the older people in the building, some folks who were already sick, might have frozen to death that weekend. The building is entirely Burmese refugees and Mexican immigrants, and almost no one on the property spoke English. We had to get the city involved because there were so many property violations. The city, to their credit, came out, kind of turned the whole health department inside out to make sure that folks were on site all weekend. And then by Monday, we got the heat and other utilities reinstated for the building.
See, this is where it can be good. Like that. This is where the sound of a tenant union sounds good, because these are the things, the things that the basic things to live: heat and utilities is, you would think, is the basic necessities for everyday people, for any individual, to avoid getting sick and just living, right? And when to live in these conditions is like, it's wild, right? It's like, you really, my God.
Trouble is, 2 days later, the local slumlord who owned the property when we were organizing sold it to an out-of-town landlord.
Yeah. Are you out of your mind? I have more words for that, but yeah. That is
What word do you have?
a low life scumball. So low ball. Couldn't be a good landlord, huh? He had to throw it off to somebody else who was out of state. And now the managers who live on site, or it could be even worse. I mean, come on. They always have the managers on site, just FYI, y'all, unless they have a smaller building, and then it's not. So, it's not.
And
so
that
you know.
landlord, 2 weeks after that, filed 30-day notices against all of the tenants in the building and said, you all have until the beginning of April to move out of this property. We're going to flip it and start renting these units that were rented for $350. We're going to rent them for $1,200.
From $350 to $1,200.
Greedy bastards.
That's kind of what it is right now. That's what, times 3 basically.
I mean, it's cheaper rent there than it is here, but
overall, just the general idea.
Still, to maximize it more than, Jesus, that's what, 4 times the amount of rate. So we're looking at maybe 90% increase.
And all these tenants are poor, right? They're on fixed incomes, many working multiple jobs. And so with basically nowhere else to go that they can afford, they're like, we literally cannot leave. We will not leave. And so they do the only thing they can. They reach out to KC tenants. And the union bombards his cell phone with hundreds of texts after only getting his number because he went to the city to get tax incentives for another deal. Then he finally relents and negotiates with them, cutting a deal to let the tenants stay in their homes. And while they would only pay $400 in rent, the city would cover another $450, and that coming with strings attached. So now we can't evict them or raise rents for 2 years, and formal notices have been translated into their native languages. But Tara is saying that this story is nowhere near unique.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, that's good. You see, this is where like you can get, like, we're not political, but this is where you get your local government. This is where we do get kind of like, as much as the government is annoying to get stuff done, they're still there for the most part to help you to the best of their ability, right? At least they were able to get them to stay roughly. It's still $50. $50 is still a lot for a lot of people, but to keep it low, avoid eviction for 2 years. These are some decent stipulations. It sucks because you still have that worrisome thing within 2 years, but it's at least 2 years of some calm. But
it's some sense of security, right?
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully that something better comes along for them and they're able to move out too.
And I think we'll see what the next story is, but he's right. There's more instances like this throughout the country, probably throughout the world. Because yeah, like I said, the term landlord is not a very kind.
Though fortunately in this case they had a tenant union to back them up, but also saying she wants to see more arrangements like this on the federal level as well, where the government makes loans and subsidies conditional on landlords not raising rents more than a certain amount, say 3%. And one way it can do that is through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, where these government-sponsored enterprises help institutional investors obtain hefty low-interest mortgages with few strings attached. But ironically, while their ostensible purpose is to help subsidize affordable housing, they arguably do the opposite, especially with mobile home parks, right? Because when the landlords raise the rents, it boosts their cash flow, and that makes the land more valuable on paper and allows them to borrow more money against the property. And then with that extra cash, they buy even more property and just repeat the process.
So yeah, there's this cycle of just people trying to make more money. I had family like this who this was their like goal, was to like eventually like do this. But it's one of those things like you need money to make money, right? I get the concept. It's not a horrible concept. It's horrible when you misuse it, right? and you're putting the people under you in these like horrible situations. Like if you're doing this and still keeping some level of decency with the people you are renting the land, the housing, everything, to a decent amount of stuff where you're still, I'm not saying you shouldn't make money, right? You should still be able to make some money, but not at the expense of others, right? That's when it becomes like evil, I would say, and that's that's a very strong word. And yeah, and it's just some people just get blinded by just millions of dollars. This millions, right? I'm talking in the millions of dollars, like even thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions. It's like it's anything. Monies will drive people for a lot of. Okay, any thoughts on that, Luke?
I agree with you.
So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac just supercharge the corporate conquest of housing markets. But in theory, they could make their loans conditional on the landlords not raising rents or evicting tenants. And notably, those are two things corporate landlords are more inclined to do because of the financial pressure they feel to maximize profits for their shareholders. Right? In one study, for example, of single-family rentals in Fulton County, Georgia in 2015, institutional investors proved far more likely to pursue eviction than other landlords, with them filing evictions on 20% of tenants, a rate more than 3 times that of so-called mom-and-pop landlords. And subsequent studies in markets from Boston to Vegas have reached similar conclusions. And on the eviction front, the same logic applies, with investors often buying up rent-controlled apartments, then pressuring residents to leave and then selling those units at market rate instead. And that pressure can come in many forms, often through a so-called tenant relocator hired by the landlord to persuade tenants to accept a cash payout in exchange for moving. They'll also do things like threaten to evict or deport you, claim the building is being demolished, or lie about other tenants taking the money. All of
these are stories that we hear about all the time. Yeah. It's this is where you're where we were talking about earlier, where you're kind of put in this last moment situation, right? And you're just like wondering, like, what am I gonna do? Do I take the money, or what do I do? They're gonna take down the building. It's just you're put in these situations where like your back's behind the wall and you can't do anything, and you're just put in a situation where like I can't do anything, so I guess I just have to move.
which is especially frightening to immigrants who often speak very little English and are undocumented. So if they're going to have any hope at a defense, it's through a tenant union. But Tara says that corporate landlords are almost impenetrable to organizers.
First of all, it's so difficult for a tenant to know who their landlord actually is when private equity owns their home, because private equity will cover its tracks through a whole myriad of LLCs, a whole maze of property management companies and other contractors, and the tenant is left with really no clear path to the landlord. And that's by design, right? Private equity is shielding the owners and the investors from any kind of real accountability with the human beings on the other side of their investments.
But also,
yeah, there you go. It's like just you're basically hiding yourself so you don't take any blame. It's the corporations, because it's easier to not worry about the people you're hurting if you don't know who they're hurting, and if you're the person who's hurting trying to find the people, they're just shielded by bureaucracy and white. Is it white tape or red tape? No, red tape's not yellow tape either. What's bureaucracy? Okay, you know what I'm talking about, right? Right?
Yeah.
Bruh.
Is it white tape? Oh, you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can get into those points where when you're trying to find who to try to contact, it's nearly impossible to find because there's just so many barriers to get to that. And sometimes those barriers are just a maze of phone chains, and it just never get to it. When you just get to it, it's time to go. And that's with a lot of things. Like that's kind of how I had to deal with that to get some stuff fixed, where I literally had to do a phone chain for 2 days to finally get my stuff settled. And it's just that's how some corporation work. It's just the legal way to bounce around until like you get too frustrated to go any further, right?
Mm-hmm.
Has there been any instance for you where you just had to, you got frustrated, or there's been where you've just been like softballed for multiple, like just like, oh yeah, you have to go here, you do this, like trying to get what you wanted, but there's like, oh yeah, you got to do something.
I'm determined. If I've never been in like a home situation like that, but yeah, there's like if I wanted to get something done, I'd stick to it because that's just how I roll. All right, I got this number. I want to call that number. All right, it's on time today, but I'll call tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like it's something I'll stick to because I'm like, well, I'm gonna get my answer one way or another.
There you go. And that's the thing is, like, a lot of people aren't like us who are like determined, and they're just like after a while like I'm done, and then they get frustrated and like, all right, we'll just take another way, and that the other way is usually the harder one.
None of this is to say that mom and pop landlords are a perfect alternative, or they can be a less aggressive version of the same thing, but Tara argues that even they often function like corporations.
Even those, quote, mom and pop entities have LLCs that shield their actual ownership from their tenants. They might even contract with property management firms. A lot of the way that they do their business has adapted to follow the model of corporate landlording, which is much more dominant today than it was even a decade ago.
And so she says that KC Tenants is up against a tough political challenge, but by slowly growing their power and exerting constant pressure on the city, they've made some legislative gains. Things like passing a tenant's bill of rights, for example, or a guaranteed right to an attorney for tenants in eviction court. With that one not just giving them a fairer shot at keeping their homes, it also disincentivizes landlords from hitting the evict button in the first place, right? Because with a guaranteed lawyer on the other side fighting for the tenant, evicting them becomes much more of a legal headache. And so you have one attorney who represents Kansas City landlords saying last October that the cost of an eviction had risen by a factor of 5, and saying the process now took from 3 months to a year, up from a month or so before. Though part of that was also due to KC Tenants' activism. Right in July of 2020, for example, after the local eviction moratorium ended, they tried to delay virtual eviction court hearings by logging on to Zoom calls and chanting every eviction is an act of violence over and over so nobody could actually hear each other. Then in October, they chained themselves to the courthouse doors, even taking their protests to the front yard of a judge. And all these methods reaching a fever pitch in what the union dubbed Zero Eviction January, when they prevented 90% of scheduled evictions across.
Ooh. That is a lot, 90%. And this was 2020, right? This was early pandemic.
Yeah.
This was early pandemic, and this could have been really bad during the lockdown for a lot of people. Because this was also, I don't remember when I think they mentioned it, but I don't remember when the subsidy was for when they were subsidizing pay for housing or rent and stuff like that. But yeah, it's these things that can be like right now. These are the things that can help individuals. There can be some negatives. I'm not going to deny that. But we're trying to look at the more positive note, because in this right now, in the year 2023, it's hard just to survive, to live, to find a roof over your head. Like in this moment, it's almost about like I think you and me have talked about individuals who have had to move out because their landlords have risen the rent, and in the places they do find are like the rent is still high. It's high. It's not worth the price they're renting.
Yeah.
And I can give one example right now. Was the best example I can give right now is one of my coworkers recently had to move because they raised the rent by $500, and the place they found is the exact same price they were paying before, except they have no yard now, one less room, and no garage. And it's
ridiculous right now. It's ridiculous. I can't agree more. I have heard it and not seen it, and I actually have a family friend who's going through some issues right now with their landlord. They were making her call her crazy and all that jazz. It's not a great story. Yeah, for what she said, what I pay for rent right now is nowhere better than anywhere else right now. Everything else is much smaller, worse location, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, It's ridiculous. I don't know how people are able to afford their rent. We talk about this all the time, but how are people able to afford their rent? Again, 2 incomes. You have 2 full. What do we say? 2 full-time jobs to make it.
2 full-time jobs just to survive. and this we're talking about Oregon. We're talking about Oregon because there's like the golden mark for every state. We talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
But in Oregon, you need 2 full-time jobs to survive. So,
yeah,
2 counties that month. But again, as Tara explains, it is an uphill battle when you're fighting the powers that be in local politics.
Our city is bought and sold by private developers and landlords in many ways, right? This is not unique to Kansas City. This is the truth everywhere. Real estate capital is the most potent political force in local elections and in local governance.
But that hasn't stopped her from trying, like with an eye-catching protest at the Starlight Theater in August, where Mayor Quentin Lucas, a Democrat, had a cameo in a local play, but a half-dozen hecklers from KC tenants berated his housing plan from the audience, a plan where he proposed issuing $50 million in bonds to fund low-income housing. But at the same time, he wanted to loosen regulations on a program previously encouraging affordable housing and otherwise market-rate projects. So in effect, developers would be able to replace units meant for low-income families with those meant for middle income. And so 2 days after the protest, KC tenants members filed into the city council chambers for the vote, which favored the proposal 9-4, causing one member to yell, "How dare you," and security hauling her out with her hands behind her back. Then another member yelling, "Not another penny for the slumlords," which promptly got her not only kicked out, but arrested and taken to jail. So if it wasn't clear by that point, the union knew that it really needed some political power. And actually to that end, its sister organization, KC Tenants Power, got a union leader elected to city council last month. And actually 4 of the 6 candidates they endorsed won. And so while progress is slow, Tara says they ultimately want to see Kansas City invest in municipal social housing. Right? It's outside the private sector, backed by public funding, and democratically controlled by the tenants who live in it. And actually, on the federal level, Biden's early plans for infrastructure included a proposal to invest $40 billion in public housing. Though by the time his 2021 infrastructure bill and 2022 Inflation Reduction Act were signed into law, the proposal had vanished. And so I guess with all that said, if you are interested in learning more or doing some work yourself, Tara's union has an organizing toolkit online that you can read for tips and strategy. I'm going to link to it in the description.
And we'll copy the same link for everyone. For if everyone wants to know more about that. So give us 1 second. But yeah, that's kind of that. It's definitely, there's definitely options out there. Mostly with the economy's not getting any better. Yeah, that's for sure. And it's a more, I would say, better story to a darker side of the stuff we've been talking about. Because it's just showing that there's options out there. Like a lot of people don't know that there's quote tenant unions. You tell someone that like, what? There's that? Like, if you would ask like 10 people, how many people do you think would actually know what a tenant union is?
Probably
if you would
not a lot.
I would say one out of 10. So 10% of people. And then you tell them like, oh, there's an option for me. Like then people start listening, learning. And I think that's the best way. That's the best way for us to kind of help people sometimes. It's like, we won't, as much as we're like a comedy news show, we still want to give people some level of like chance to like know what's happening out there, because there are options as much as it sounds like there isn't ever, right? When it comes to these things, because my God, it is hard for a lot of people.
Crazy.
Yeah, and like we like me and Liz just told, we have 2 stories right there, alone within close proximity of ourselves, like people we know that are going through this, and it's like it's one of those things like I don't see any fix in the near future.
Oh no.
And there are options out there. There's possibilities. And we'll see what's to come, because we're getting closer and closer to that dystopian future,
Oh yeah, I agree with you 100%.
And it's not the fun one. We're getting to those like really horrible dystopian futures. Like sooner or later, we're gonna get like either the nuke apocalypse, or maybe that zombie apocalypse wouldn't have been bad for a reset. I think we just need a reset.
It's gonna be the reset for sure. I mean, we're doomed for it.
I think it's time for the reset, because the weather has, as much going back to the weather, we getting like California getting hit with that like tropical storm earthquake combo. That's something. Like,
it's a hurricane. What are you talking about? It's tropical. It's a hurricane.
No, the second
flooding.
The second it hits landfall, it's a tropical storm. It was a hurricane, but it's you know, it's semantics at that point. But to say the least, what are your thoughts? Just kind of this whole thing, Liz?
Well, I hope people, can find the resources. I mean, just struggling, in general. I think I'm hoping that would come. There'll be one for Oregon soon, because I feel like that's going to be needed in the near future, very near future.
Okay, everyone. So, everyone, I think those are going to be our final moments. We've been going for a good chunk of time, but I hope we've educated and entertained you enough today. There's a lot to take in. Some horrible stuff, some weird stuff, and hopefully some very educational
crazy stuff.
Yeah. So, everyone, don't forget, if you want to help support us and to continue and help us build our compound so we can help people, don't forget to pick up merch at merch.tyrantdominus.com, link down below, to help support us if you want to get something back and still and support us as well. If you want to support us and not spend a penny, just follow us on any of our social media, share the podcast on Facebook, TikTok, X, Threads, all those social media networks, anywhere. Or the best way is just tell a friend, tell a family member. Word of mouth is the best way to do it.
Yes.
So, Liz, thank you for joining me, and everyone,
Thank you.
Thank you for listening or watching. Until next time, see ya.
Bye.